Welcome everyone to the IDA meeting, September 19th, 2024. Roll call.
Yes. Sarah Lansdale.
Present.
Kevin Harvey. Sonda Constance. So let's see, Sonda, Greg Casamento.
Present.
Chris Damianos.
Present.
Josh Slaughter.
Present.
And Brian Bienbender has an excused absence today.
Well, thank you. Thank you. No, for the record, we have a quorum. And the documents for the meeting can be accessed and are posted on the IDA's website at www.suffolkida.org/resources under the board meetings tab. I'll move to public comments and the public portion.
Yeah, thank you. Let's say to Rob Trott, would like to speak today.
Here's my yearly Westfield Green update. I think that Sarah Lansdale said she was doing a study on it. That's complete yet. I guess not,
Good morning.
but
Good afternoon, madam.
I'm right to the point. Okay, I'm holding the minutes from May 16th, 2019, when the Fairfield people came in and said there are 6 school-aged children living, and all 6 previously were in the school district. No net children. Well, I can tell you that short time later, I sent an email that there were 45 children there. And I can also tell you that today there's 54 children there. And I can also tell you the last time I checked, there were 299 pending foreclosures, which means the people in that district, 299 families cannot pay their taxes. And the reason they can't pay their taxes is because the IDA gave a huge tax break to the Broxmeyers, who are billionaires and are subsidizing billionaires at the expense of the 299 people, plus God knows how many are having trouble paying their taxes. So when you gave this to Fairfield, when they said there were 6 people there, and I'll provide you with this, it's in your own minutes, you basically screwed the residents of that community, because they're paying more taxes for the 54 kids that are going to that school district. Now, some can make the argument that, oh, 10 kids used to come there. Well, did someone go knock on those 10 doors and say, oh, who moved into those houses? Because I can guarantee you it's at least that, if not more. So I suggest you do what you have to do to claw back these tax benefits, because you're hurting the people. And in the future, when you talk about giving to an apartment complex, I'm totally against apartment complexes, because we are robbing a generation of children, of kids building equity. Because all we're doing is making the rich richer and the poor poorer. And I'm trying to put a bill together now. If you want to hook up to our sewer system, a large percentage of them must be condos or co-ops, because there's no kids left. In the town of Smithtown, they're down 26% in their schools. There's only 2 school districts that are gaining in the town, in the county of Suffolk, Central Islip and Brentwood. So what does that tell you what's going to happen to these apartments? Just like all our hotels, they're all homeless shelters. I have 4 homeless shelters in the town of Smithtown. And mark my words, that will happen to these apartments in 3 to 5 years. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
No.
And we get the minutes that you were referring to, and can we get the IDA package that you were referring to for the 2019 project?
Absolutely. We can also supply the board with, Mr. Wexler and I have put together a timeline and a response, and have been in touch with the school to verify the number of school children, to verify the number that moved. 24 moved within the district. That information came directly from the school. 21 were in fact new estimated. And Sarah and I have also worked extensively on putting information together on Westfield Green. So I'll organize all of that and get it out to the board. We'll work on that for next week.
Yeah, we also met with the legislator whose district,
Legislator Kara Cap.
yes, whose district the Fairfield resides. It was, let's see, it was Kelly, Sarah, and I, and we had, I thought, a very fruitful discussion about all of the facts, and I think he understands, what the situation is.
Did you want to summarize any of that further or?
Can you summarize what the situation is?
Sure, what happened is we had, and he had legislative counsel there. And we explained to him the numbers, among other things, that 24 moved within the district. Additionally, what I thought was most important was that Fairfield Green, and before that it was Westfield Green, used a calculation of 0.17 schoolable children per unit. And that's used nationally. In fact, that's used by our people who perform.
Long Island Housing Partnership.
Long Island, exactly, Long Island Housing Partnership. So that's not some number that somebody pulled because it looked good. That's the standard. And that yielded, I think, between what, 21 new students. And that's right where we're at. 24 moved within the district. So you can't hold that. And it leaves basically 21. And so they were spot on. Additionally, we explained that we can't give some sort of a penalty, because to do that, we'd have to recast the pilot. And we'd have to give a discount to, or penalize all of the other taxing entities. You just can't single out one, the law prohibits that. So, but at the end of the day, we felt that A, there wasn't any misdirection by the applicants going back to 2019, because they used an estimate that's used nationally, and it was spot on. So, and I believe the legislator, Caracappa, understood that. And also, we advised them that the Westfield Green agreed to build a memorial park and do other benefits, and they have followed through with that. So also, we explained that how much it was a putt-putt golf course that was, I think, almost abandoned.
Right, so the increment of taxes, and forgive me, I don't have that off the top of my head, but can certainly supply that, between the land only and the taxes that are coming in now are substantially higher.
More than it.
Than it was
costed.
bringing in, if there were no project at all compared to what it is, the increment, I don't recall the percentage, but
Was it,
It was-
again, I'm spitballing it, was it like 20,000 in taxes before?
something like that.
And the first year it jumped to close to 100-ish?
Yeah, so the taxes prior to the pilot were 29,000. And then the taxes paid in 23-24 to the school district is $115,303. The total taxes paid to the school district to date, since the pilot's been in place, with information compiled by Kelly and her team, is $571,076.
So that's roughly.
Middle country.
And there was a couple of other things worth noting. Number one, they have no contractual requirement to school children. It's frowned upon by the fair housing laws. It's, we're not in a position to dictate or estimate what school children, and would defer to the panel of attorneys that are on the other side of the room, but so school children, that was our best estimate based on industry standards. This is absolutely an outlier because originally it was for sale. Everybody may recall. These were supposed to be for sale, but the market for condos fell out at that time and they had no other choice but to treat them as rentals.
So if I can, just the tax dollars, then what you mentioned before, salary figures, it's roughly a 5.5 time multiple. Over what's the duration of the pilot?
It's a 15-year pilot, as I understand,
Yes, okay.
and we're in year 5.
Yes,
Okay, so we're gonna get almost, let's say for argument's sake, 6 times over a 15-year period. An additional tax revenue to the school district.
And just following up on one thing that Kelly said, just putting a point on it, there was no covenant in the lease agreement regarding the number of students. You know, it's not as though we say you violate this, like certain things, obviously, if you move out of the district, you don't pay your pilots, that's a default. There was no covenant, and you can't do that because it's frowned upon.
Well, that was gonna be my next question. Is it legal to put a covenant to dictate how many children and who property owners can rent to?
No.
I don't think that's.
And, yeah, and also I don't believe any, and we have a panel of experts here, I don't believe any IDA in the state does it, and there's a reasoning.
Or in the city, I know Bill knows the city very well.
No, I don't know of any restriction on the city.
Was there an affordable component to this project as
Yeah,
far as?
yes.
A large one, 20 or 25%.
It came back to us.
In year 15, their, full taxes, they'll be paying $624,600 in year 15. Right now, they're in year 5.
It was 126 residential units with 32 units set aside as workforce housing. Workforce housing being defined by the town of Brookhaven as 120% of the area median income.
We haven't had this problem with other projects, housing projects, right?
No,
Usually the numbers are spot on, even they come in students, I think, a little lower. So we've never had, as Kelly said, this is an outlier.
it's unusual because they're 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms and they're very large units.
Yeah,
So we're saying that, but there was 21 new additional students, was what we heard.
And that's
And
from
it changes every year, quite honestly. I mean, the last report we got from the school was 45, right?
And that's from the school district. Yeah, to find those numbers.
Yeah, so they moved within the school district to this complex.
I know it's an outlier, but I don't know what it costs the district per student to educate them here, what that is, you know.
We have that information also. But I will tell you enrollment is down in the school district.
What did we say, about 30,000?
33, I want to say.
33,000 per student. But again, as we discussed with Legislator Caracappa, the addition of, and we did the math, it was something like 2 students per grade, even like 1.7 students per grade.
Right.
Throughout K through 12. And when you look at it as a lens of a marginal analysis, that doesn't mean each student is another $33,000. If you have 19 students in a class and now you add 1 more, is it $36,000 or $33,000 to educate that extra student? Additionally, that only looks at the bad parts and not the good parts. What I mean by the good parts is the state aid and federal aid and all of that, that's discounting all of that. And also, as we explained that to show you how the $33,000 per student isn't in actuality, the number is how many of the residents in the middle country school district pay their school tax of $33,000, just that, none. So it's much smaller, but that's why I say it's a marginal analysis. At some point in time, I guess if you introduce 50 new students, maybe you have to start adding teachers, aides, administrators, but not with the numbers here.
And it's difficult to get your hands around those numbers because they're very dynamic and so they're always changing. As is evident by Kelly saying that enrollment's down. Now, some of that enrollment may be down because of what he said regarding foreclosures and people moving out. But there's people that are working their way through the system that are eventually leaving. So what we do with the 1.7 from the Long Island Housing Partnership is very much a medium by which we just try to work by, right?
Absolutely.
Any other questions on this? It's a good discussion. Yeah. Would it be helpful to board members to have the information that Kelly and I presented kind of recast and sent to the board as a summary?
It could have heard.
Are we gonna see the response letter before it goes down? Is there gonna be a response letter to legislate?
Today, Billy and I probably discussed that and I would say yes.
I mean, we've responded in the past.
Yes, we'll add it to our, yes.
Okay.
And you'd like to see that in draft before it goes down? Absolutely.
You know, just
a general statement, you can't say it's one-to-one, where you have an apartment complex and there's more kids in there than maybe there should be, or whatever the national average is. There's a whole host of factors that go into reasons why they're there. One of which is high interest rates. People can't buy a house because they can't afford the interest. Forcing them into an apartment situation. Rates start dropping again, make those houses affordable. I think most people really do want their kids to be able to play in their backyard as compared to being in an apartment complex. I mean, maybe that dynamic is changing or not, but that has been historically. So you know, I don't know if you could just hang it all on the developer, letting in, kids into his apartments, because you can't discriminate against it anyway. If somebody comes walking over with, and I've got 2 kids, he said, I can't rent to you. You're in trouble, he's in trouble, yeah. You know, so I don't think it's necessarily, a one-to-one scenario as he paints it. I mean, he has an argument, but I don't know if it's solely on our shoulders or on apartment owners' shoulders.
And that rental part of the equation, of the housing equation, is very important. It's the first step. And somebody mentioned condos and co-ops. Well, maybe you can't get into a condo and co-op. So everybody rents, then they jump to the next level. As they climb the economic ladder, they can jump to the next level, which is homeownership. So it's all part of the, I don't want to call it circle of life, but it's all part of the housing market. It plays an integral part.
There's also one other issue, and again, we've all thought about this a lot, Sarah, Kelly, and I. But also, when I look at it globally, I say to myself, okay, we are the Suffolk County Industrial Development Agency. And globally, we want to educate children, and some district in Suffolk County will be educating. And if you try to know, it's not my responsibility. It's really society's general.
Absolutely.
Some districts are going to have to educate those children.
And being a commercial property owner, we don't generate any kids going into the school district, so the taxes that we're paying on our buildings is 100% pure going in to the school district, and the numbers are huge.
Right, and help reduce the overall tax rate.
And then would you also penalize, I know some families that have 11 kids, are they going to get penalized because they have 11 and I only have 2? So there's a lot that goes into it, it's not an easy thing to say, this is ridiculous.
You mentioned you were working on a study of this,
We were collecting information with economic development and planning and IDA to make sure we have the updated school numbers. So we'll share that.
Okay.
Good for you.
We'll work on recasting all of the data and information that we have to date, and then drafting a new letter and sharing that with the board before we proceed.
Okay. Any other items or any other public comments at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on then to new business. Is there any new business?
No, nope, not today.
Okay, so we'll move to old business and document processing. We have with us Jared Presper.
Yeah. In case
From
there's any questions.
the Meats. Kelly, I'll
Yes.
turn it over to you.
Great, so Good Meats LLC, Casanova Market Inc. As a reminder to the board, they considered this at our last meeting, so they're a certified wholesale distributor of meats and beef, poultry, fish, pork, miscellaneous grocery items. They distribute to a wide variety of bodegas, delis, and grocery stores. There will be a small portion of the facility that'll be used to cut down larger meats. They're real specialty niche marketing. They have goat and a variety of other interesting types of meat. They are moving from a location in West Babylon, much smaller location, to 430 Wireless Boulevard. We had a public hearing yesterday at the HILI in Hoppa. As required, we always hold the public hearings in the jurisdiction where the project will be. There were no comments received, and There were no comments received via email, so it is ready for a motion for an authorizing resolution.
Great. Any questions from the board? Is there a motion to proceed?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, thank you, Craig. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any noes or abstentions? Seeing none, motion is carried. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Nationwide 360, WMJ Lot Realty LLC. Again, Steve Griffin appeared at the last meeting and spoke about his business, which is manufacture of trade show exhibits, architectural fabrication and creative brand experiences, activations for private and corporate events. Again, we held the public hearing for them yesterday at HIALI. Again, within the taxing jurisdiction of the project, and there were no members of the public speaking for or against, and there were no comments received regarding this project. So it also is ready for a motion for an authorizing resolution.
Any questions from the board this time? Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Josh. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any noes or abstentions? Motion is approved. Thank you, Chris. Moving on to the minutes. We have the minutes from the last meeting. They were distributed prior to today. Are there any corrections or updates to the minutes? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the August 29th minutes? Thank you, Kevin. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Josh. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any noes or abstentions? You. Okay. Sandra will abstain.
I wasn't involved.
Great. The minutes are approved. On to other business. I know that we have a number of items that we want to update the board on. First, Kelly, are there any personnel updates that you'd like to make at this time?
Yes, on the agenda today, I want to propose an increase in grade for Daryl Leonetti. She's currently at grade 16, step 12. I'd like to increase that to a grade 18, step 12.
Any questions on that? And that's in conformance with other,
Yes, we mirror the county's step and grade system and I have always followed that.
thank you. Questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Sandra.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kevin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any noes or abstentions? Motion is approved. I know that there's been a lot of discussion of, or there's been coverage in Newsday regarding the Cannon project that's been before this board. Kelly, do you have an update on your discussions?
I do. So I wanted to share thoughts with the board with regards to the conversation that Greg Gordon from CE Communications and I had with Randy Marshall of Newsday editorial board. So we spoke with Randy on Wednesday, September 11th for approximately 30 minutes. She had requested background on Canon. And I provided a very comprehensive walkthrough of each step that has occurred. We discussed the details of Canon's new agreement, the letters exchanged between the IDA and Canon, and a recap of our in-person meeting with the Canon executives, which I reported to the board on in the last meeting. The timeline overview, and this is all of what I went through with Randy. I had prepared a pretty comprehensive list before I entered into the conversation on the phone so that I had all of these documents in front of me. The first was July 24th, 2024. Agency Counsel Billy Wexler wrote a letter to Canon outlining their obligation to maintain 1,081 FTEs as per our contractual agreement. The letter also reminded Canon that if they anticipated a default, that they had to furnish us with a 30-day notice. Additionally, he requested a meeting at that time with Canon and IDA officials. On August 5th, 2024, we received a response from Dan Deegan, Canon's attorney, asserting that the company remains in full compliance with its contractual obligation. On August 12th, we met, Sarah and I, with Seymour Liebman, SVP and Corporate Counsel, Amy Newman, who's the Senior Director, and we met at their corporate headquarters. They assured us they would remain in compliance with the agreement as per the letter from their counsel, and that they would meet all their obligations. And they also apologized for their lack of communication prior to the layoffs. On August 16th, in a letter from myself, I wrote to Canon, to Amy Newman, and I requested early compliance reporting for the third quarter. This is ahead of what's required per the documents, which is fourth quarter reporting that we do every year with every one of our clients. We requested Canon's New York State 45 and a detailed enumeration of sales tax exemptions used and a signed certification attesting to the accuracy of all these documents. As the layoffs had occurred after the second quarter reporting period, we waited because we want to make sure that the New York State 45 reflects those changes. August 29th, at our last board meeting, I provided the board with the overview. And Dan Deegan, who I see is with us today, also spoke to the board and answered questions. So I went through all of this with Randy, outlining all of these steps. But there are a few key points that were made in my conversation with her that were not reflected in the editorial that I want to share with the board. Randy and I discussed in detail Suffolk County IDA's internal processes and the procedural steps involved when considering a clawback event. I explained that a declared default of the agreement would trigger a notice with a 30-day cure period. Should default be confirmed, clawback measures would then be considered by this board. To date, there has been no event of default. I also clarified that the pilot agreement for Canon's property does not commence until January 2025, meaning there is currently no financial property tax incentive to recapture. Additionally, Canon has not been found in contractual default, which would be a prerequisite for any clawback. The only benefit they've received to date is a sales tax exemption, and Canon has indicated that no sales tax exemption has been claimed. The requested early reporting that I made for the third quarter will verify that information. I did explain that we don't take things at face value and that we do require verification of all the information that's being provided to us. So while Canon did not provide an immediate number of positions eliminated during our discussions, I explained to Randy that is why we've requested additional third quarter reporting ahead of schedule. And this allows us to gain a clearer picture of their employment levels and compliance with our agreement. And our focus, our concern is the number of employees that they have agreed to maintain, not focusing on what they have laid off. Beyond the immediate compliance issue, I emphasize Canon's significance to our regional economy, including the high average salaries they provide and the critical role they play as a Fortune 500 company headquartered in Suffolk County. We also touched on the broader challenge of attracting and retaining companies like Canon, noting the importance of supporting the few publicly traded companies that remain in our area. Again, and additionally, I want to say, and probably most importantly, I stressed several times during the conversation that this board takes its fiduciary responsibility very seriously and has and will continue to monitor this situation closely. Just some conclusions at the end that Greg and I made together. So despite my attempts to highlight Canon's compliance, the IDA established processes and the importance of retaining a major employer, Randy appeared focused on Cannon's refusal to provide an immediate figure for the layoffs and Suffolk's IDA's decision not to demand an instant response. Throughout the conversation, she pressed for a more critical and emotional reaction, even asking at one point how I felt and whether I was angry. I maintained my professionalism and stayed focused on the facts of the situation, avoiding inflammatory remarks despite her attempts to steer the conversation in that direction. It became clear in the discussion that Randy has a pre-established opinion on the matter. Her concerns seemed rooted in longstanding criticisms from her and the editorial board regarding Suffolk County IDA's partnerships with Cannon. She reiterated her belief that Cannon should not have received recent benefits and that the land should have been used for multifamily housing instead.
So we don't expect the retraction to be printed in.
Probably not. Probably not. I don't think so. I felt it was very important because so much of the work that the board and the staff does was not reflected in the editorial.
Thank you for your providing this information. I think it's crucial
Thank you.
for us as a board to understand what was conveyed in that conversation.
Well, just to summarize, they were afforded a sales tax benefit that they never used any part of. They don't get a real estate tax benefit until 1/1/25. And we've requested the information relating to the layoff. They've assured us they're gonna provide that and they're still in compliance.
That's correct.
And we'll have all that information before January 1st, 2020.
That's correct.
Thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for your,
Thanks, Bill.
keeping your composure.
Okay, so the next meeting is October 24th. And any other items, Kelly, that you,
Yeah, just a reminder, both the IDA and EDC will have finance committee meetings as it is budget season, as I'm sure everybody is well aware in their own business worlds as well as ours.
thank you.
Oh, so, and lastly, I do want to say, today would have been my dad's 100th birthday, so I thought I'd share that with everybody.
So we are adjourned.
Yes.